So welcome back to YFS Meets. We're joined by Musclebro Windsor's Scott Robertson in our latest edition of the series. Scott, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'll let you take the floor.
Oh, right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Scott Robertson. I'm heavily involved at Musclebro Windsor. I've been a coach. I'm a coach for a number of years. I've been involved in youth football, I think, for 32 consecutive seasons, and player protection officer, was the chairman at the club, and I'm involved in the Real Grassroots campaign.
Excellent. And obviously, you said there you've been involved in youth football for some time. I know you've had a couple of real highlights, mainly based around the Scottish Cup as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we've won the Scottish Cup a couple of times, Andy. The most recent one was last season. So yeah, it's a special competition for everyone. It's the one thing that every player and probably every coach wants to win. They want to be part of it for as long as they possibly can, and getting to the final. The SYFA make it a very special day for everyone. It's quite a slick operation now when you get to the final, and thoroughly enjoyable, actually thoroughly enjoyable. And I have to say, in all fairness to Youth Football Scotland, who take part in it as well and promote not just the final but the games throughout all the rounds, the boost that it gives to the kids and some of the coaches is tremendous. So it's a huge competition. It's the premier competition, and all the clubs, all the teams, and all the players get a real buzz from it.
And I believe there was a family link last time out as well with your son playing. How was that for you?
It's quite emotional, actually. It's something that I can't, hasn't happened before. Will it happen again? I'm not sure. So the backstory is that back in 2005, when we won the Scottish Cup, went back to Muscleborough. My son was 15 months old at the time, so he was only sort of a foot and a half high, and he was holding on to the Scottish Cup, which we had on the sort of grass at the front, and he was holding on to it, looking at this shiny thing, wondering what this was, and holding up for balance. And if you fast forward 14 years, that little boy grew up to then captain the side that lifted the Scottish Cup again. And it was the same Scottish Cup because it was the same age group. So it was the very, very same trophy. Out of the 7 Scottish Cups, that's the one that he went on to lift, thanks to his teammates. And quite an incredible kind of circle of life there.
And of course, with being kind of involved in the game for such a long time, you must have seen it progress and change, hopefully for the better. Is there anything that kind of really stands out between those kind of two markers as something that's changed positively?
If you look back, I suppose, over the 30 years, has our game improved is the big question that everybody's asking, because everybody looks to the national team and what we're doing. To some degree, what our teams are doing in Europe. Has our game improved? Huge question. I'm not certain it has. We've seen the introduction of pro youth football. We've had it now for 20, 21, 22 years. Has it improved our national game? If you're talking more kind of focused on the SYFA, has that improved? Yeah, I think it has. I think we've still got a bit to go, but there's been a lot of positive things that have taken place over, if you're using the two markers of 2004, 2005, back then we didn't have PVG. Back then you didn't have to have mandatory first aid training. You didn't have, did you have Youth Football Scotland? Maybe you were just on the brink of...
A couple of years later than that, I think about 2010.
I remember meeting Robbie Forsyth at Fort Kinnaird in Edinburgh, because he rang me and he said, I've got an idea. And we went for a coffee at Fort Kinnaird, and he said, this is what I want to do. And I thought it was a great, fantastic idea. And I'm glad it's been so successful. So yeah, there's been a lot changed. On and off the park, there's a lot changed between
And I know,
2004.
obviously, you've kind of been central in some of the campaigns to change it for the better. I know, obviously, we've got the Parliamentary Petition PE 1319 to give it its official name, but it's the real grassroots campaign, as you referred to earlier. Would you say that's probably the biggest movement you've been involved in?
Yeah, definitely. Anything, again, looking back, getting the Scottish FA and its members to change rules and regulations, it is absolutely pushing an elephant up a hill. It has taken 10 years to make the progress that we have. It's deeply frustrating. It took, for example, 7 years of this petition to get them to remove the rule banning primary and secondary school children from playing schools football and giving them that choice. Now that just for me utterly sums up the intransigence of that organisation, that members can sit and vote and think, let's not have primary school kids and secondary school kids going into first, second year play with their teammates at school. Where and anywhere in the world is that the best thing to do in the interest of a young person? Beyond me. So we've still got a bit to go. Things have changed. Stuart Regan, to be fair, was very open, very honest, very engaging. We introduced a scouting protocol, which meant that scouts from senior clubs had to be accredited, had to carry an identification. So the days of the strange man standing behind the tree watching and then asking for kids' phone numbers should be well and truly behind us. So scouting protocol, very, very important. Other things that have come into life are the Child Protection Panel that the SFA now have, or the Child and Wellbeing Panel, to give it its proper name. So we now have that as a result of the meetings and the dialogue that we had with the SFA, the T forms that they had at the start that were illegal and were just signing kids to pro clubs, and then they were never an official document, were just popped in a drawer and parents were misled. So there's been a number of things. I think we've just got about 2 to go to tick off.
Yeah, and what would you say those 2 big things to tick off are, really?
Well, what we want to see changed is this matrix for compensation that exists in Club Academy Scotland. So as it stands, if a player wants to move from one CAS, Club Academy Scotland team, to another, there has to be this compensation payment. And we don't believe that should be the case for 12, 13 and 14-year-olds. There shouldn't be this, as it was referred to by the Rangers head of youth, supported by the Celtic head of youth guy. We're creating a transfer market for children, and we don't think that should be the case. Clubs argue and SPL argue that we need this system, and what we're saying is change it, bring it in line with what the FIFA statutes say, and compensation is only due when a player who is 16, has attained the age of 16, then signs a professional contract, and then pay the compensation at that point when that person's an adult, and then he's on a professional contract. The second thing we want to see go is this 3-year rolling registration. So every kid in the country, whether it's a club academy or a Scottish Youth FA player, every year signs a registration, parents countersign it, and it's for 1 season. It's for 1 season. However, when you reach the 15s age group in Club Academy Scotland, at the end of that season, the club and only the club have the right to extend it. Whether the player wants it extended or wants to leave or move on, the club can engage terms and extend it for a second year. At the end of that second year, they then can do it for a 3rd year. So they can effectively hold a player for 3 years on that initial registration. So there's a couple of things wrong with that, and in that players don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Right? And fundamentally, in law, that's illegal. They should be free to have the choice. Secondly, what happens if you sign at 15s and go into the 16s age group on that first registration? They effectively then, for the 2 following years, have a free player. So they don't have to pay them anything. So the clubs are scoring financially. And the young player is maybe thinking, well, maybe I should get a job. Well, I can't because I've got to go and train 4 days a week, but the club are not paying me because I'm on a, effectively free contract. So again, it's the power of the clubs controlling to some degree the SFA, because that's what suits them, not having to pay. So they can have a kid in the books throughout the 16, 17 year and not pay them a penny and not engage them on a professional contract.
And obviously, it's as you say, it's been 10 years this has been going on now. You said it's immensely frustrating for you that it's been going on for so long. When was the kind of first time you realised, almost, if there was a kind of point that you could pinpoint, where you realised, hang on a second here, there's kids in the system that are being dreadfully exploited? Did something happen, or did something make you realise, or was it just a kind of gradual thing?
No, there was a bit of a catalyst for me. For 21 years, I was involved in the schools football. Ever since I was at school, so I was involved heavily with the school football scene, as well as the boys club. And we had really good school football teams at Musclebro Grammar School. We were really quite fortunate, kids that really wanted to play football and loved it and enjoyed it. And there was one kid in particular that stuck out for me. That he was a very, very social kid, Stephen Slater. Very, very popular kid in the school, and he was signed to one of Edinburgh's senior clubs, and they were quite staunch in their approach that you do not play schools football. And so much so that their head of youth, the director of their academy, would come down to our school pitches at Pinkie Plainfield and watch and spy and see if this kid was playing with his teammates. And it sort of came to a head that, look, the kid wants to play, and there's no reason that he shouldn't play. He's enjoying it, he's loving it. He's free. He's more free to do and express himself at schools football, and it's part of growing up. And the club took the position, well, if he plays for the school, he'll not be with us. That is horrendously unfair on the player. If the player had thought, look, I can't do both, but then all well and good, that's his choice. But to be kind of forced and manipulated by a senior club just kind of hammered home to me. And you could see the kid was tortured by this decision that he perceived that he had to make, that I'm not going to do both. And to be fair to Stephen Slater, it was a case of, no, I'm playing with the school. I love it. I really enjoy it. So that was probably the one moment I thought, no, this has to change. And that was the one point of the petition that was probably closest to my heart. The kids, if they want to play for the school, then so be it.
And now, obviously, you say you've achieved a lot in this 10 years. There's still, as you say, 2 things that you want to really achieve. Do you feel like the corner's kind of been turned and it's looking like a more positive outlook with Ian Maxwell in charge and everything?
I hope so. It's tricky to foresee what's going to happen. I mean, the committee who have, and there's been a number of members of this petitions committee, but they've all taken a very similar line, and they've produced a very strong report. And the recommendations are exactly as we would have hoped them to be, because I think, if you're an MSP, you're looking at all sorts of things. You're involved in everything from health to law, law enforcement, the police, everything that goes on, you have a finger in. So you have a very, I would like to think of a very balanced view on life, and have an idea of what's best for the young people in our country. And they've said very strongly that no, we can't have a transfer market for children, and no, we can't have them tied to club for 3 years. Kids should have more freedom and choices than that. So it's been a very strong report and places huge pressure, not just on the SFA, but on the clubs, on the organisations that support and contribute. For example, Sport Scotland, who administer millions of pounds in funds, to say, well, hang on, guys, we can't be seen to be giving you masses of funding if you're not doing the right thing for the young people. Ian Maxwell, we've only met briefly. We're due to meet again, and that's organised through the Commissioner for Young People and Children in Scotland. So ourselves, the Commissioner and the SFA are going to come together to see where we are and see how we can change things. But I do get this feeling that the SFA and Ian Maxwell and I think Stuart Regan, if they could tomorrow change the rules, if they had that power, they would. But I think when it comes to the committee that then sit round the table and the committee members are thinking, well, what's best for my club? Then they vote against it. So I think the SFA and the committee system that they have restrains them and hamstrings them from making what I think is the right decision, because it's back to the old vested interests.
Absolutely. Well, it does sound hopefully positive, but one thing that I'm sure is possibly taking a toll and it's prolonged things even further is the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't think we can have an interview in 2020 without mentioning it. For someone who's been in the game such a long time, is this the most unprecedented, toughest thing that you've ever seen for youth football?
Definitely, without a doubt. And no one's going to argue that there's been a bigger moment of change, and it's hugely frustrating. And because things are changing, it's difficult to keep up. And again, it's the uncertainty. So we were looking at maybe taking the kids for a trip abroad. That was something we really wanted to do again. We did it 2 years ago. I've done it many times in the past. But can you take that chance? We've had other teams within our own club who were going to go in April this year. Paid thousands, raised thousands of pounds, and then the trip was cancelled. Okay, the money gets refunded, but it's a huge disappointment. So can teams look at doing it next year? It's a bit of a gamble. Are we going to have a lockdown too? Do you just try and do something more locally in terms of trying to get games back? That's what kids want. That's what coaches want. It's what the parents want. But we're not quite there yet. And I feel for the kids that were involved in the Scottish Cup last year. Got to the semi-finals. Our own 2007s were in the semi-finals, and they've never got a chance to play that competition out. So it's hugely frustrating, but it's out of our control. And for me personally, I don't like being out of control.
And then how have Musclebro Windsor in particular, how did you guys deal with it? Because I know a lot of clubs are slowly returning to training, and we're holding Zoom sessions, Zoom fitness sessions, things like that. So what were Musclebro Windsor doing?
Yeah, we've been pretty good. We've got a guy, Alan Russell, South East Region SFA Volunteer of the Year, and quite rightly so. He's a very organised, very direct man that now leads our club. He has engaged a lot with the council and Enjoy Leisure, who operate the facilities. So we've been at the forefront, if you like, in East Lothian, doing the risk assessments. setting up the plans for when we could return to Pinkie for training. The grounds have been opened up quicker than maybe they have been in Edinburgh. So we see clubs toil there to find facilities. So no, we've been right at the forefront. Our risk assessments have then been shared with other clubs across East Lothian. They were apparently so good that they hit all the right notes and did the right thing. So we're quite fortunate that we've been up and running now for a number of weeks down in Musclebro. It's now just a case of when can we start getting games going. We've still got in place restrictions on supporter access and coming to games. So parents are going to find that quite frustrating. But we'll get there. We will get there.
Yeah.
It's just a very slow and methodical, small steps all the time. And we're not used to it. We're used to bang, the season starts, third week in August, we're off and running. Here we go. And nobody has ever faced anything like this. So it's difficult. It's difficult to keep expectations, I suppose, grounded as well.
And we'll just finish up with one final question on a slightly cheerier note. I know you've seen a lot of boys that have played for Windsor, played in the local area, and gone on to some fantastic things, even playing for their country. Is there anything that you notice in their game when they're younger that you think they might have it? Is there any attribute that you would kind of encourage in young players?
It's the attitude. It's I do this thing about the 3 A's, and we have this chat with the kids about what's the most important of the 3 A's. Is it ability? Is it attitude? Is it application? And we'll have a wee chat about what comes first. But you can see in certain kids an absolute determination, and it's not just in a particular game. It's in all games. It's in all training sessions that they want to not just win, but they want to do the best they possibly can. They want to use their weaker foot. They want to get better at things, and they'll just put the work in. There's an energy about kids that then go on to do well. They're not lazy. They'll pick up the cones at the end. They just do all the right things. It's this energy that comes with them that you think, he's going to do all right. He's got a real good chance. Because at the end of the day, and what's very difficult to get across to parents, and I say parents in particular, is that the world of football and making a living out of football is not easy. It's not this starry-eyed, this will just all magically happen because he's been playing football since he was 3. It's work. Football and being a football player, it's a job. You get paid for it, but it's work. It's hard work, and it's demanding work. So sometimes I get annoyed that they think it's some glossy kind of great old, it's just about swaggering in with the latest tracksuit and headphones on, or earpods now. But it's not. It's work. You're there to work, and you're there to work bloody hard. And we have to get away from this sort of rose-tinted view that football's a glossy, easy thing to do. It's not. It requires dedication. It requires absolute focus because it's work. So there we are.
Thank you very much for giving us your time there. I know you'll have to head off pretty sharpish. But yeah, thanks again, Scott, and hopefully we'll hear again from you soon.
Well, Andy, it's been a pleasure, and all my very best to Robbie and all the team at Youth Football Scotland.